the assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, also known as the Warren Commission.
Yeah.
Because it was headed by Earl Warren. Boggs reportedly was not happy, this is rumor has it, not happy with the actual results of the Warren Commission. Yeah, reportedly. He also reportedly spoke with Jim Garrison, who you may have heard of. Kevin Costner played him in Oliver Stone's movie, JFK.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jim Garrison was a New Orleans district attorney. Boggs apparently spilled his guts to Jim Garrison and gave him enough information to cause Garrison to indict and prosecute a New Orleans businessman named Clay Shaw, who, if you haven't heard of, watch the movie JFK, or maybe, I think he was played by Tommy Lee Jones in the movie.
It's been so long since I've seen that, I don't even want to hazard a guess.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, so...
Yeah.
I know
How could you have
get
not
in
watched
trouble.
the movie?
I know, I don't know. I'm sorry. I didn't do my research for this.
Yeah. The rumor was that Garrison had this, he had a witness that he said he went to a party, like some sort of cocktail party, where Clay Shaw and some other associates met with none other than Lee Harvey Oswald and plotted the assassination of JFK.
Interesting.
And so he took the case to court, and I think I don't remember how long the trial actually went on for, a while. And he made his case, and then the jury came back and acquitted Shaw after deliberating for less than an hour.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
rough.
guessing his career didn't go very good.
That's kind of humiliating, don't you think?
Yeah, that's a major trial.
Mm-hmm. So why did he spill his guts to Garrison, if he did? Well, again, as I said, it's been rumored he wasn't satisfied with the verdict of the Warren Commission. And it's also been rumored that he wanted to reopen the assassination investigation.
Let's be fair, he wouldn't be the only person
Yeah,
in this
no,
whole world
that's
that would
true.
want that.
Yeah, I was going to say, listen, this is the thing that is so funny when you read about Hale Boggs, is everybody makes it out that he was running around Washington constantly screaming what a cock-up the Warren Commission was and how wrong it was.
Uh-huh.
But you got to look at the dates here. The Warren Commission ended in 1964.
Yeah.
He died in 1972, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
8 years later.
That's 8 years. If I don't like something over the course of 8 years, I'm probably going to make some disparaging remarks to it.
Maybe.
But that doesn't mean that I am so flaming angry at it as the way that you find it in a lot of the accounting.
Okay, well, I don't know if that's true about you or not, because I've heard you get that angry.
True.
Many times.
But not 8 years later.
But not about the Warren Commission.
Not about the Warren
Yeah.
Commission.
See, I was
That's
fine when I was on the Warren
true.
Commission.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah,
I
that
didn't
was cool.
care. You were satisfied with the results.
Yeah, no, the thing about it is like there's evidence both directions.
Yeah, no, I'm just.
And
it's
the,
just the way it is phrased and put to readers on the internet is why I want to bring that up.
Oh yeah. And if you read all this stuff on the internet, he was telling anybody and everybody about the massive lies of the FBI and how
Yes.
and how their investigation was all cocked up and everything. And but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I did want to say regarding the Warren Commission, a lot of the people that served on it really actually were kind of reluctant to. And a couple of them even pointed out that it's really not going to settle the issue. It'll probably just make things worse. And that's really basically what happened with the Warren Commission. From the start, it was like everybody was alleging cover up, and so why even bother?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely true.
Yeah. But anyway, all this talk about reopening the investigation has led to speculation, still going on today, that Boggs' disappearance was not an accident and that he was murdered to head off a new investigation. So they didn't do a very good job. People are still poking around in the JFK thing.
Yeah, they did not nail the lid shut on that one very well.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I think they missed completely.
Yeah.
Knocked the lid off, in fact.
Yeah.
Pandora's box is open.
Yeah, they just stirred up a hornet's nest here. But so there's a lot of talk about this, the elements of the CIA and murdered him. There's also talk about maybe it was the FBI that did him in.
The CIA couldn't have murdered him.
You don't think so?
I don't know. Every time somebody's like, "Oh, the CIA murdered this guy," but did it happen on U.S. soil? Then it probably wasn't the CIA,
Oh, you think?
right? Like, isn't that the thing? The CIA can't operate on U.S. soil without a different
Well-
department, quote unquote, heading it.
Well, yeah, but if they're doing something as illegal as murdering people, they probably don't care.
Maybe. Or you just get the FBI to do it for you.
They're pretty much.
Or the Men in Black, or,
except
you know.
the CIA and the FBI don't really like each other.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just always my initial reaction when I hear things like that. It's finally coming out on the show.
Yeah, I tend to be a little skeptical about that whole cloak and dagger, and I don't think of special black ops and wet work and stuff like that. I think of just blistering incompetence.
Yeah, that's what the Lake City Quiet pills were for, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they did it.
Oh yeah. No more talk about those guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to stay alive.
So we should probably get back to Hale-Boggs.
Oh yeah, let's talk to Hale Boggs here for a minute. Hale Boggs, actually, speaking of the FBI, had a good relationship with J. Edgar Hoover. I read through a bit of his FBI files, and there was a lot of correspondence back and forth on various issues, and Hale Boggs was constantly praising Hoover and the FBI and yada yada yada.
Which is so counter to some of the louder websites that you find on this story. That's so funny.
Well, things did change a little bit.
Yeah?
Things did change, yeah. And by April 1971, in April 1971, Boggs claimed that he discovered a bug in his telephone at home, and he thought it was the FBI that put it there. Then maybe 2 weeks later, he gave a speech before Congress in which he called for J. Edgar Hoover to resign. He was drawing like parallels between J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI and the Soviets and stuff like this, and 1984 and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did either of you listen to because obviously Nixon wasn't very happy about that. Did you listen to the tapes from Nixon when he was talking to...
Was it Ford?
I think it was, Jerry, because he called him Jerry, so it was Ford.
Yeah.
When he was talking to him, and they always say, well, then this is proof that Nixon wanted him out, and Nixon's not happy with him. But I had never heard any of the tapes from Nixon before, and it is the weirdest conversation in the world to listen to. Did either of you get a chance to?
I did not.
I did not listen to it.
It
no.
is. I have never heard such a leading conversation. In other words, Nixon would start talking, and there would be a question in there, and then Ford would start to, oh yes sir, oh yes sir, oh yes sir, to answer the question and make him feel better, and then he would just ride over him, and then he would, oh okay, well I gotta let you go, I gotta go, and then he'd do it all over again. It was the weirdest thing in the world to listen to, and I didn't know why everybody made such a fuss about it. It really was just, I don't think that guy should have done that, and I think we got a problem. So you should have somebody look into this. Okay, thanks, bye.
You got a problem with Boggs or a problem with Hoover?
Oh, with Boggs.
With Boggs, yeah.
Yeah, with Boggs and everything he was saying against Hoover. Yeah.
I know that Nixon was not about to touch Hoover. I mean, as story
Nobody
as the story
could touch
goes,
Hoover.
yeah, Hoover was untouchable. Yeah.
He's got his own dam.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
I
does.
know.
It's true.
Seriously. And he had the goods on everybody, the rumor has it. And so, everybody was afraid to go after Hoover.
This is why his grave is hidden, because it's all in his coffin.
Yeah.
All his secrets.
Yep.
Oh, I would love to get my hands on his files. That'd be so cool.
You and me both.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so something changed Boggs' mind about J. Edgar. Now, back to our fateful plane ride. It was the morning of October 16th, 1972. The weather was so-so. It was fog, low clouds, a little drizzle.
You remember?
Oh, I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a company called Pan Alaska that was owned by a guy named Don Jones who piloted this plane. The plane was one of their planes.
It's Jones. It's in case somebody's going to go out and Google it.
That's with a Z.
It's Jonz, which isn't exactly the intuitive spelling of the word.
Yeah, and
I've heard it pronounced Johns as well.
Yeah, I was just about to say it could be John's. I don't know, or Juan's or Jan's.
But it's Jones now.
Yeah,
He could be John Z for all we know.
but for our purposes, we'll just call him Jones. His flight plan basically was that they were going to the town of Yakutat. I'm probably mispronouncing that. But they're going via Airway V317,
Which is a flight route.
It's a flight route, yeah. And once they got to Yakutat, then or Yakutat, they would go on a straight line to Juneau from there. It was supposed to be about a 3.5-hour trip. So the route goes southeast from Anchorage through what's called Portage Pass, through the mountains. And then it veers leftward a bit and goes pretty much more or less straight to Yakutat. And then from there it nudges just a little bit rightward, carries on to Juneau, but it leaves the V-17 flight path.
So it's pretty much over land?
No, it's mostly over water.
Mostly over water. Okay.
Here, let me
That's actually.
Do you have the?
I have got.
Yeah, let's look
I've
at
got
that.
a map of it. Yeah.
So what you're looking at, that it's funny is that I had looked up what the current normal route is between the two cities,
Yeah.
and most commercial airlines today actually take an arc between the two, and they stay inland for most of that trip. So it was really interesting when I saw this that it was actually
But it's on the coastline.
over water
Yeah.
the whole
But on the
route.
coastline.
Yeah,
Yes.
pretty
Okay.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
So yeah, it takes off, goes to Portage Pass, and then heads off across Prince William Sound, and then it's mostly over
yeah.
water, but
Right.
but it's not that far off the coast. So if you get in a little bit of trouble, maybe you can make your way to dry land before you crash.
Maybe.
Yeah,
The
maybe.
water's cold. It'd be hard.
Yeah, it would suck either way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don Jones, the pilot, said that he was going to fly under visual flight rules.
What does that mean?
Visual flight rules means that that's what you do when the weather is clear enough that you can see all around you. And,
Oh.
and then instrument flight rules are when conditions are very limited visibility, then you're supposed to be able to fly by instruments instead of just by using your eyesight.
So it's fly by sight or fly by instrument. He was doing fly by sight.
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
Yeah, and kind of foggy, cloudy weather.
And he was, of course, he was qualified to do both. Right.
Yeah. Oh, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this guy had like 17,000 hours of flight experience or something
Because that's
like that.
I think that's probably an important thing to mention as well. Because it's not.
Yeah, and so I don't know if he was just getting cocky or what, but yeah. But the NTSB investigated this and wrote a report in 1973. That's when they released it anyway. And then
For those uninitiated,
Oh,
the
yeah.
NTSB.
National Transportation Safety Board.
There you go.
That's it.
Listen, not all of our listeners are
That's
American.
I
a
know.
good point. Sorry about that.
I'm thank you for saying that because I read it and I was like, I know what that is, and then just continued on. So good call.
Yeah. Well, okay. But according to their report, quote, the weather conditions along the proposed route were not conducive to flight under visual flight rules criteria, unquote. Yeah, but anyway, that's what they did. They took off at 9 a.m. Last communication with Anchorage Tower was at 9:09 a.m. And reportedly they disappeared as they were approaching the Chugach mountain range. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Probably not. So the plane didn't even make it to Yakutat. Oh, an interesting factoid about the Chugach Mountains is that they get more snowfall than any other place in the world.
What?
Yeah, they do. Annual average snowfall is 600 inches.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Wait, that's
50 feet.
Jeez,
50 feet of snow.
Louise.
So if their plane did happen to crash in those mountains, well, it's not a surprise they never found it.
that absolutely is.
For our not American, everybody else who uses the metric
If you're
system,
metrified.
that's 15.25 meters,
15 and a quarter meters.
15 and a quarter
Yeah.
meters
Yeah.
of snow.
Yeah, so
That's not nothing.
no, it's not. A lot of snow.
You could make an awesome snowman.
A really big one. Yeah.
Or a lot of them.
Yeah.
Snowman army
Yeah.
would be great. Give them all little hats. Send them marching on
You
to
obviously
Anchorage.
don't watch Doctor Who.
I remember that episode.
So you do.
They have nasty little teeth.
Did they have actual carnivorous snowmen or something?
Yeah.
I don't think
Yes.
I saw that one. They did? I like
Yeah.
it. Oh, where were we? So the plane was supposed to arrive in Juneau at 12:30 p.m. At 1:15, it was reported overdue. So the U.S. Air Force Rescue Coordination Center checked with all the airfields that were anywhere near the plane's flight path. And nobody had seen or heard anything from the plane. So he didn't make an emergency landing anywhere.
And they were in you said it was a 6-seated Cessna?
Yeah, twin-engine Cessna with 6 seats.
I am never going to get in a Cessna.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Good idea.
Yeah.
Smart move. Yeah, they diverted. There was already an airborne HC-130 plane up in the air, so they diverted that to go look for the plane. And of course, they brought in lots more resources. This was one of the biggest searches ever. They spent 39 days
Wow.
before they gave up looking for these guys.
I guess you
guys.
would. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. So the planes, helicopters, both government-owned and private. And they searched thousands of square miles of land, and also Coast Guard cutters, along with merchant marine vessels and fishing vessels, searched Prince William Sound, the Gulf of Alaska, and the icy straits area around Juneau.
wow.
And they found nothing, not even a bit of wreckage floating in the water. Nothing. And then an interesting little side note, some people have made a lot of this.
Yeah.
Actually, they have. On October 18th, 1972, the FBI's Los Angeles office got a call from a guy, and I've heard this two ways. One was the FBI got a call from the guy, and the other one was that this guy called the Long Beach Coast Guard office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have actually seen it both ways now that you say that.
Yeah, and so this guy claimed to work for a company that specialized in, quote, surveillance technologies, unquote, and that they had located the plane via either some sort of radio transmission or via the transmission from its emergency location transmitter. Because most planes carry, in fact, they all carry them these days.
Today.
They all do. They didn't carry them in those days necessarily.
This crash is why all planes now have emergency transponders in them.
Which are really, really effective, as we know from recent crashes. They're very helpful in finding crashes.
They are kind of helpful.
Usually.
First time I ever saw one, I was in a little two-seater Cessna with this guy that I knew.
He was in a Cessna.
Yeah, I was in a Cessna.
You're lucky you survived.
I am lucky. Actually, this guy was, I really did kind of take my life in my hands because this guy was actually a fairly novice pilot, and he wanted to go for, and so we rented this plane and took off from Vancouver, Washington, and flew around Mount St. Helens, and then came back. And that's when I noticed I saw my first emergency transmitter, and it looks like a walkie-talkie mounted in a really heavy-duty bracket towards the back of the plane. And it's got a toggle switch on the top of it, and there's a little rail, and it's got this heavy weight on it. So the whole idea is when the plane goes smash into something, that heavy weight's going to go back forward and toggle that switch. Very, very simple, sophisticated, but effective,
it totally makes sense.
Yeah. But under Alaska law, you were required to have some sort of emergency transmitter. If you didn't have one mounted in your plane, then you could have a portable unit with the pilot. So you could do that. So Alaska did require them. In this particular case, the pilot.
Just so I remember, that's 2 days after the crash that guy called.
Oh yeah. Back to
Right.
that. I totally got off the track.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
It is, it's 2 days.
Yeah, so 2 days after the crash, or 2 days after the disappearance.
We should say, yeah.
Yeah.
That's when he called, and then
So this guy, and he gave the coordinates of the crash site, and although he didn't really give the coordinates as in precise latitude and longitude, instead he gave these really strange directions.
I have that.
Yeah, and he also said that there were 2 people still alive there. He said,
I don't know how he would know that.
Well, that's kind of what I'm wondering too, because it must have been some sort of radio transmission. But what I don't understand is how it is that nobody else heard this.
Yeah, or maybe they were doing like a flyover thermal.
In the more
the guy was in California.
conspiratorial websites that you see, they say that at the time, the U.S. government had the ability to actually track individual people and could pick up some kind of special radio I don't know. I don't understand it because it's really kind of fringy.
It was his fillings.
Anyway, it was their electromagnetic field. They could track you by your personal electromagnetic field, I think is what it was, and that they had the technology to do it, but they couldn't reveal that. So, of course, whenever anybody said, I can't tell you that, or who do you work for? I can't tell you that, because technically it's a government institution that he works for. It was the goofiest thing.
Okay, so
I had read
what you have what he said?
Yes, and the directions, right?
Yeah.
Yes. His our highly reliable source, as they call them. The FBI, I think they called him that. But okay, so here's how it goes. It is draw a straight line from Anchorage to Juneau, head west from Juneau 200 and an unknown number, because we don't know what it is, because the photocopy is so bad.
Okay.
You got it out that telex.
The telex.
On the web.
Yeah, so
it's kind of hard to read.
200 and blank 6.5 miles across the Yakutat Bay and the Malsapina Glacier. Draw a line from that point to the coast. Go back north along that line 6.43 miles to the downed plain. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a geographic word problem.
That's like an SAT question.
It kind of is, and I don't understand why they couldn't just give like the latitude and longitude, maybe.
I have theories on it, and we'll talk about that when we get into the theories section. But that is the way that the directions were given.
Yeah, the FBI did go interview this guy. Unfortunately, his name has been redacted in their records, so I don't know what his name was, but. They
J.
reported,
Edgar Hoover.
yeah, they reported that he, quote, appeared rational, extremely intelligent, but somewhat strange, unquote. And he was also evasive. Like I said, he wouldn't say where what his company was or exactly what they did. Wouldn't talk about that. And then, the FBI asked him again, like later on, if he knew anything about like what frequency these radio transmissions were on, or what any of these messages were. Like what the text messages were, he wouldn't say. So
He was absolutely part of the Fringe network, right?
Or a prankster.
Yeah, it could have been a prankster. Yeah, I know. The FBI did pass the info on to the relevant people. The area was reportedly searched and nothing was found. And after that, they decided the source was a flake. And also, again, the plane, even though it didn't have an ELT, emergency location transmitter, the pilot still was supposed to carry one, but Don Jones's ELT was found later on board another Pan Alaska airplane.
This is weird. I mean, I guess it's...
I think that he went from one plane to the next
And left
he
it behind.
forgot it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
guess, again, it's one of those, he was a pretty accomplished pilot.
Yeah, he didn't feel like it
It's
was really necessary,
A
maybe.
coincidence that he decided to choose the wrong kind of way to fly. It's a coincidence that he managed to leave his transmitter on a different plane.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think it's anything, any dark conspiracy or anything like that. I think.
But it is. I see where Devin's going. Where it's a lot of coincidence.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the pilot was feeling a little down and decided to take himself out. And
We've seen it
other people-
before.
Yeah, I know. So it appears that there was no emergency transmitter. Now, the plane, of course, had other radios in it, but how well those would be working after a plane crash, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially under, 50 feet of snow.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
I don't think it dove all the way down through all 50 feet at once.
Could have.
That would have had to hit really hard.
Yeah, well, it was in the sky. I mean,
Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
You win.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that plane that crashed in South America decades ago, and they were in a headwind, and they didn't realize that they were traveling basically from Buenos Aires to Peru, and so because of the headwind, they weren't as far west as they thought they were. So they started their descent too early, and they sort of crashed into the side of the mountain.
Yeah, I was just reading about that the other day.
Yeah. And then most recently, what happened is they wound up becoming part of a glacier, and now parts of the plane are starting to come out of the glacier, out of the front of the glacier.
That's crazy.
After all those years, after all those years, decades, the plane's finally popping out. Maybe that's what's going to happen here. Maybe it'll start coming out of a glacier one of these days.
Yeah, that plane crashed and it was 46 or 47 or something
like that. Yeah,
it was guys who had been in World War II, so
yeah,
I remember that. Anyway, that's all. We're getting off track here.
Once again, off track. That's okay.
It's a point on bingo.
People love to just hear us talk, even if we're not saying anything particular.
I think they do.
Yeah.
I don't.
But as far as if they heard radio transmissions, like voice radio transmissions, it's kind of surprising nobody else did.
Yeah.
Although several independent ham operators in Northern California said they spoke with someone, or at least heard a transmission from someone on the plane after it crashed, who said that there were survivors.
And then again, it's another one of those weird things, right? Where it's like, but why so far away? Is that where everybody was hearing it?
Mm-hmm.
Why weren't people? Why didn't the airports in the area that were on the radio? Why didn't they pick up?
Ham operators in Oregon and Washington and Canada picking it up.
Or Alaska?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
Why was it only California?
I know, just only Northern California.
Yeah.
I know.
Smacks
Maybe
of
the
another
plane
case.
crashed.
Yeah, it reminds me of Lost Boy Larry.
Yeah, maybe the plane actually crashed in California. That's why they couldn't find it.
They were way off course. Yeah.
That is a terrible course correction.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, I know. So, our mystery then. What happened to Boggs, Begich, Brown, and Jones?
Yeah.
Sounds like a law firm, huh?
Mm-hmm.
There are three possibilities, excluding Chupi and the aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I'm also going to exclude they went off to go start a new life somewhere else theory.
I've read your notes. You don't actually do that.
Yeah.
You totally keep that one in there.
Yeah, so three possibilities. Here's number one. The CIA and/or the FBI arranged to have a bomb planted on the airplane. This is, a lot of people believe that there was a bomb. Some people believe that the CIA assassin was none other than Bill Clinton.
Is that real?
Yeah.
It is.
That's real.
I found it on at least 2 or 3 websites.
Supposedly, Clinton was a young man, and he drove Boggs to the airport to get on the plane that took him to Alaska.
Yeah.
Not the plane that went down.
Well, yeah, everybody takes this as, he drove them to the airport in Alaska and just snuck a bomb.
They were
on
in
it the last
Texas or
day.
something like that, weren't they?
Nah, that was the Dulles Airport. Airport. So
yeah.
New York, right? No, Dulles is
Dulles
Washington.
It's Virginia.
So Washington D.C. Right?
Me know geography quite well.
Surrounding area. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Okay.
I mean, it's not in D.C. proper,
It's got to be. I'm
but
thinking of Dallas, Fort Worth. Then.
yeah.
Yeah, that's it. But
You're just a little confused.
Yeah, well, I was a little confused as soon as I heard that old Bill Clinton was
Well,
responsible.
it would
Yeah.
explain why he was elected to president as payment.
that's got to be it. So he probably drove to the airport and says, "Hey, I just got a little parting gift for you here. Now, I don't want you to unwrap
really
this
good.
until you get to Juneau, and don't mind the ticket."
I have never heard your Bill Clinton impression before.
That's quite
But
good.
it's pretty good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So Clinton is the assassin, which
Clinton was the assassin, yeah.
I'm sorry, the only thing that he has been able to assassinate that I've ever known of is his wife's dignity.
And his own
And
character.
his own, yeah.
Yeah. So okay, but continue on with this. I'll shut my mouth.
Okay, so where were we? The CIA or FBI had a bomb planted on the plane. As I said earlier, he was supposedly pushing to reopen the investigation into the assassination, and he had to be silenced.
Yeah.
It's been said that Boggs was suspicious that there was CIA and or Cuban government involvement in the assassination.
Yeah, because, that is a thing. God, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I
No.
know.
No.
Yeah, an author named John H. Davis wrote a book about one of Boggs' associates. I don't know how closely he was associated with this guy, but the guy was kind of a mafioso sort of guy. And then he wrote that Boggs was skeptical of the FBI investigation and its conclusions. He said also that years after the fact, one of Boggs' former aides said, quote, "Hale always returned to one thing. Hoover lied his eyes out to the commission. On Oswald, on Ruby, on their friends, the bullets, the guns, you name it." Unquote. Of course, this is just, kind of like third-hand kind of stuff, kind of hearsay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alternatively, the FBI might have done it because Boggs dissed J. Edgar Hoover. As I said, he denounced him and demanded his resignation in April 1971.
Always possibility.
Yeah, of course, Hoover died 5 months before the disappearance of the plane. But you never know. I mean, maybe he gave the order and the assassins just waited until October because that was a propitious time to do it. Because after all, Alaska and small airplanes don't really get along that well.
No.
Yeah, even though you have to have them to get around. I mean, they seem to disappear a hell of a lot up there. Or crash, or not disappear, but they crash a lot.
They don't fare well. Let's
Yeah.
just call it that.
Yeah. And also, bolstering the FBI theory, Nick Begich's son, who's also named Nick Begich, said in 2011 in an interview that the FBI knew where the downed airplane was, but didn't turn over the information to the Coast Guard. And so the plane's survivors were basically left to die in the wilderness. That's what he claimed. And yeah, I know.
Well, it's just, I don't know. I usually when the kids of the victims of things buy into these conspiracy theories,
They champion the conspiracy.
it kind of, I don't know, it adds a little more to me. They knew their parents pretty well. They would know if they had that sense of that was actually probably going to happen to them or not. But obviously, I don't think that Cokie Roberts thinks that any of this happened. So
She's kind of the polar opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so it's I don't know, but that's always interesting to me.
Yeah, it's always, I think, especially when it's your parents or something like that. I mean, you want it to be something more historically significant than there's just
That's also
they got in
true.
a crash.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he said that they did it mainly to. I'm not so sure that he buys. He didn't really say anything about the whole JFK assassination thing, but he thought the FBI just had the technology to find them, but it was new and classified and super secret.
I see.
They didn't want to give away their sources.
I see.
So they basically chose to let these people all die.
Okay.
Which I don't believe in '72 that they had any sort of super mystical.
Well, it would have been.
technology.
It had to be a satellite.
Yeah, the thing about it
And
is,
I was looking up the satellite lists that had been launched and were available at that time, and it didn't get an impression from anything that was out there that we had anything remotely capable of doing that.
Unless the FBI had, actually bugged in his bloodstream Hale Boggs. to track
that is.
him.
Oh,
Yeah.
they put a little tracker chip in him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be.
To know where he was at all times to make sure he wasn't up to no good.
Yeah.
That could be.
That technology existed then.
Yeah.
Well, we did have spy satellites and stuff, but you kind of like they're not necessarily going to pass over that particular spot.
At that particular time.
Yeah, and they're they might go over that spot once every now and again, unless you want to change their orbit a bit, which they're kind of reluctant to do because they have limited fuel on board.
I don't know why Google didn't get a picture of it.
I know, really, seriously. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Google, can we talk about the guy who said he knew the coordinates thing a little bit more?
Yeah.
Did he found Google or?
No, because I used Google.
Oh, okay. That was your transition.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, because I kind of went a little crazy on this word problem that they gave us about how where he said they knew where Boggs was, and there's some serious problems with it. And I'm going to say at the outset that I'm pretty sure the problems with it are that somebody did their quote-unquote calculations. They did it on a paper map using a ruler and a pencil and, doing the distance conversions from X amount of distance equals a mile. So their scale is probably what screwed them up. If we go back to what this person's head west from Juneau, which is the southernmost point of their route, because Anchorage is north of it, or northwest of Juneau.
Yeah.
Well, the 200 number, 200, the blank in that has to be a low number. Okay, so it's 206. Well, that means it's got to be like 226, 236 to put it around that glacier that he's talking about. But in a straight line, there's almost no land that on the line that they're running. So when it says follow that line, hit this mile point, and then draw a line to the coast. Well, I don't know what that line to the coast means, but then track that back north 6.43 miles. Well, that does put them completely in, basically it puts them in the middle of, what's the glacier there? The Malaspina Glacier.
Okay.
That's the one that they reference, which is a Piedmont Glacier, which is a weird glacier because it's kind of flat, and from space, it almost looks like somebody dropped a white drop of paint in blue, the way it kind of echoes out, but it's a real flat area, so it would have been pretty easy for the search planes to find it because there's no major crevasses and crags and stuff in there. So my first problem is that the point that they call out on the course is over water, so it's hard to go to the coast, because I infer it to head south from the line to coastline and then head north. But even if it's just heading directly north, it doesn't make any sense. It's such an easy flat area to find somebody. So that's why I consider the whole thing just so badly done, and somebody who thought they knew what they were talking about based on a map, and they were kind of a kook.
I think the guy was just. I think it was probably just BS because some guy wanting attention. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. But I spent way too much time on Google Earth trying to map out these coordinates, and it just doesn't work.
It's just a strange way to give the coordinates to the crash site. But as you say, if they had crashed on that glacier, then they're probably, even if their plane had fallen down a crevasse, you'd see some nice big long skid marks and a little bit of debris and stuff like that. Yeah. So between the FBI and the CIA, I'm going to go with the CIA. Mainly because since they were employing Bill Clinton, that makes him an assassin and a murderer.
Obviously.
So that's kind of fun. But yeah, again, as we said, he drove to Dulles Airport, but he was nowhere near Alaska on the day that the plane took off. I think that